And hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of My Isolation podcast. There's been a bit of a gap, a massive gap, really, between episodes 2 and 3. And that's mainly because I've been just very busy with life in general. um, yeah, just been busy with life in general. I mean, I went to see John Wick Chapter 4, which is what this episode's talking about. We're going to do a review and a bit of a discussion, just me chatting about the film and why I really liked it because I did really like that movie. Um, and yeah, so I saw it, and then literally the week after, I went to Bordeaux for 3 days for a holiday, which was really nice and very much needed. Um, so I didn't get time to record around then. Then the week after that, which was last week, I went to go see the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which hopefully that next episode is going to be a review discussion on that. Hopefully Alex will be back, like he was in the second episode. We're just trying to organize that right now. Um, and yeah, and yeah, pretty much, yeah. Just been really busy. But I've got this weekend off. I'm free now, and so let's talk about John Wick Chapter 4. This is the first proper, full, in-depth review and discussion episode that I've done. I did the Marvel Phase 4 one, but that was more a compilation of mini reviews and me just talking about my thoughts on each project of Phase 4, nearly like 2 hours. Hopefully this episode doesn't turn out to be that long, but we'll see right now. Hopefully the sound's all right. I've been doing tests, and the third test seemed all right. The other two, bit of an echo. So if there's an echo in this room, I apologize for that. It's the same room I used for the other episode, so I don't see why today's seem to be playing up. But we'll figure it out. Hopefully, it'll turn out for the better. So yes, let's talk about John Wick Chapter 4. Before we go into Chapter 4, though, let me talk about my previous um, experience with the first three John Wick movies being chapters 1 to 3, and with the franchise in general. But basically, I love the John Wick franchise. I love all three movies. I love the action in them. I love Keanu. I think he's so perfect for this role. This role was made for him, quite literally. I can't really picture anyone else but Keanu playing this role. It's like it's like somebody else playing. Well, actually, somebody else did play Ted from Bill and Ted. I think it was a Bill and Ted TV show where they cast somebody else. I don't know who it was, but it wasn't Keanu Reeves or Neo. That's it. Yeah, if it was Keanu Reeves, if the cast, it was like Neo. Neo's perfect for Keanu, and John Wick is the same. I can't imagine anybody else playing that role. Um, I like the world as well, like the world of the High Council and the Continental, and just the world building that they've done. And I think because the John Wick movies are its own thing, it's not an established franchise, so it's not something where you have to look at the source material and try and build a world around that. It's more you can just do your own thing, can make your own rules, and it's very much its own kind of franchise. And I really like that about those movies as well. The characters also as well I quite like. I think a lot of the John Wick characters from the past have been quite epic and honestly very likable and just very badass, and they just love to fight. And that's pretty much and getting to the last and final thing. It's the fights choreo scenes. The fighting and the choreography and the action. It's just these movies are really kind of um, excuse me, these movies are really, really pushing kind of the boundaries of what you can get away with with action, particularly considering that they're R rated as well. So I feel like that higher rating definitely gives them more of a kind of freedom to do what they want, and do what they please. Compared to say an MCU movie where because that's got to land around the PG-13 rating, with the exception of Deadpool. So you're not limited, but you have to kind of stick within the confines of PG-13 compared to the John Wick series, where because they're R-rated, it's like we'll just do whatever the fuck you please. Um, and I really like the action sequences as well. In the other movies, they're so perfect. I think my favorite action sequence is the opening for Chapter 3, where John Wick shoves the book in the guy's mouth and quite literally like breaks his neck by using just a book, which is just which is mind-boggling. Like I remember watching it at the cinema, and a mate of mine was just burst out laughing because he couldn't believe like what the fuck we were witnessing. Um, Yeah, the movies they're really great, and I really love how they've kind of how far that this franchise really has come. You know, like I remember when the first one came out back in, was it 2014? I think it was 2014, because I remember they didn't release a trailer for it until like the month before the film came out, and I think it was originally meant to be a straight DVD movie. I might be wrong on that, but definitely, I remember the trailer came out for it and definitely had that straight DVD quality about it. But then the movie came out and people absolutely raved about it, and people were like, "Hang on, this is quite cool." And it was this kind of underdog in the action genre, essentially. And then it just built its way up from there. You know, you had chapter two, which elevated the stakes, continued building the world, established more about the High Council and the Continental. That final scene of John racing away from everyone because everyone's turned against him because he killed somebody on Continental grounds, which is against the rules. Um, and it was just perfect, really. And then you had the third one, which definitely elevated it even further, to the point where it was just epic. It was just it's this franchise has really gotten off the ground, and it's really managed to stand on its own and kind of and kind of really prove it's earned its place in the action genre. I feel like John Wick franchise has earned its place, especially considering that again it's a fresh and new thing. It's not like an established property, so it kind of cheated its way to the kind of cheated its way a little bit if it's an established property. This one's brand new, start from scratch, um, and yeah, like creating its own world. I love John Wick as a character as well. I just love how overpowered he is. Like I know people have started complaining this. Well, not lots of people, but a few people have been like, "Oh, he's too overpowered now." But I feel like that's actually the point of the character. Like he's so massively overpowered. It's just you just want to watch him like kill, like fight people. Like he's just so overpowered, and it's just so enjoyable to see. And he barely speaks as well. Like I think in like this new one, he only has like maybe not even like 20 lines. Like I think it's just little yeah and stuff like that. Um, but I really but that's basically my history of John Wick, the John Wick franchise as a whole. Um, I think we should probably start getting up to chapter four. So leading up to chapter four, so I'm going to be honest with you. I should probably put this. Actually, I should have said this earlier, but there are going to be spoilers in this movie, in this review. I mean, in this episode, there's are going to be spoilers in this. So if you don't want to know what happens, if you still haven't seen John Wick Chapter 4 yet, I don't know why you haven't. It's been out for like 3 weeks now. Like, go see it. Come on, what's wrong with you? Like, I know we're in a cost of living crisis right now, but view cinema tickets aren't that expensive. I mean, every man's cinema tickets on the other hand, oof, they're expensive, and city screen are also quite expensive. But view cinema, you should be all right if you go there instead. So yeah, if you haven't seen John Wick Chapter 4 yet, go see it. If you don't care about spoilers, then yeah, stick around. I guess just don't we spoil Chapter 4 for you. So John Wick dies. Yeah. You thought like, yeah. I wasn't joking. There are spoilers in this, so you just had that spoiled for you. If you were stupid enough to stuck around. Nah, I'm joking. I'm messing with you. Um, but honestly, though, yeah, there are spoilers in this. I've just spoiled the ending for you. So if you don't want the rest of the movie spoiled for you, click off and click off and go watch the movie. Um, but if you don't care about spoilers, stick around. Um, so going into chapter four. So after chapter three, even though I really liked the John Wick movies, when chapter three was coming out, I was saying to myself, I think needs to be the last one. I would have been fine with John Wick being just a nice trilogy of movies. So when it ended on that cliffhanger ending where Winston shoots him, he falls down the building, and then it sets up the events for this movie, I was a bit like, okay, I mean, I don't mind a chapter four, um, but I was thinking like where can we go from here? Because I do think with the John Wick, and there was also that thing with where there was going to be a chapter five, and they were going to film back to back, but because of a certain virus that ran around for the past 2 years, for 2 years of the first of this decade, we unfortunately they had to change their plans, and also because of Keanu's commitments to Matrix Revelations. Um, they couldn't do it. Basically, they couldn't film chapter 4 and 5 back to back, which I think was for the best. I think like when a lot of sequels and stuff like that film back to back, it doesn't normally go too well. I think the only couple of exceptions I would say is the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, which did they even film back? Did those two even film back to back? I don't think they did actually. Okay, scratch that. It's just Lord of the Rings trilogy. Um, but other films that have filmed back to back, I've not really landed well. So I was a bit like, I was a bit like, okay, but I was thinking to myself, chapter 4 needs to be like the last one, essentially. And I'll get onto that more when we talk into more about the ending. That's what I was thinking going in. And then obviously, plans changed, and chapter 5 isn't. I don't think it's greenlit as of right now. I think they're waiting to see what happens with that, but we'll see. Um, so starting off this movie, getting into the plot, it was a little slow to start off with. I'm not going to lie, but once the action started, particularly in the other continental, I can't remember the name of it. Um, the not New York one. Although that building getting blown up, that really did shock me. The other continental that John Wick is hiding out in, basically, when the action got going in that, the film got going there. I was all in. I was like, yes, we're back. I mean, obviously, it started off with him um, shooting that guy at the start. Um, to try and get, I think it was to get a ring back. I can't remember exactly the exact sequence, but yeah, that like the opening where he's in the desert and he's chasing people on a fucking horse, and he's like got his gun, he's shooting on the horse. That poor horse, man. I mean, those gunshots sounds must not be good for like a horse's ears, or maybe it is, or maybe it doesn't affect him that much. Who knows? Um, that opening sequence that was good, but I think when he was in the other Continental, that's when the action really started to get going, and I was really getting pumped. Just seeing all of the like staff members, chasing after the high council guys, and just seeing like and having John really, it was just elevated up to, I can't explain it. I can't really explain what it was, but the action has definitely gone up a level, and it's like I think they've really, and that's another reason why I think this should be the last one, because they've really properly pushed, I think, like the action to its limits now. They've really gone above, they went above and beyond for this movie, and maybe they thought that this film was going to be their last, and they thought we may as well give it our all, and that's a great thing about this film. Like it really gives its all in this, particularly with the action, and they're really pushing it and going and trying to level it up a lot. Like the scene where John's in that part of the Continental with all the mirrors and he's fighting all those people, and they're using the mirrors as a um, using the mirrors to kind of elevate the action. He can't see where he's using them to his advantage. He's got the nunchucks on him as well. He's firing off Donnie Chen, who we'll talk about in just a second, but great character. Um, but let's talk about Keanu quickly. He's at his best here. This is probably the best he's played John Wick, I think, and he's played John Wick pretty good in the past three movies. But this one, it's yeah, he's at his peak, I think. And I think what's great is the fact that John Wick doesn't have that. It doesn't actually speak often in this movie. He doesn't have that many lines. He is mostly in silence while he lets other people talk around him, and I just think that's quite. I think that's quite good. I think that's quite cool. Um, because like it's kind of a bit of a silent protagonist, but he's able to sell it on his like his facial expressions and his reactions to things, where even though he doesn't react too much to stuff, but it's like the little things Keanu does where you can sort of get what he's going for, and you can get what he's emoting, like when the girl's father gets killed by Donnie Chen, and then she hands him. I can't remember what she hands him. I think she hands him like a. She hands. I think she hands him something. I think it might be a tie or a. Not a tie. I think it's a sword or something. And she says, "Kill him." And you just see like John's kind of his reaction to it as well, because him and Donnie Chen's character were friends at one point, and he was also friends with the leader of that other high council. and he's one of his friends has killed another friend, um, and yeah, just it really you really get you kind of just get that across with his facial expressions. So I think allowing a John Wick to not have as many lines as the other characters, I think was a good move, particularly in this one. I mean, he's always been a little bit more silent in the other movies, but I would say in this one he's a lot more silent. He's a little less chatty in this. I mean, I mean, to be fair, he's an assassin. Assassins aren't chatty. Assassins, they like to get their shit done. They like to get their shit done, pretty much. Um, but he's at his best here, and Donnie Chen as well. Let's get to him because Donnie Chen, man, he is such a powerhouse in the action in these action movies. I loved his character in Rogue One. I thought his character in Rogue One was really funny. He was really, but he was also quite, his moves as well. Like this man knows his martial arts. Like he knows his martial arts. He knows them well, and you can tell. Like this man has been training. He's like spent half his life, probably all his life training. I would imagine. Um, but he's able to get that across as well. He has a habit of playing blind characters as well, even though he's not actually blind himself. Um, which I find a bit interesting. Like who knows, but who knows? But the fact that the character in this one was blind and he was still able to use his other basically do like a bit of a daredevil thing where he was able to use his other senses, but also use like other things to help him out. So when he's in the Continental, he puts those little devices on in different parts of the room because when the people when the other soldiers, not the other soldiers, when the other staff members are looking for him, they walk past. It sets the sensors off so he knows where they are. Like the way that this character used he used that to not his advantage, but he was able to work around it as well. Like this guy was so able to work around that. Um, I feel like it was just badass, and he was just amazing in this movie. He really again he knew his martial arts, and he probably kicked ass in every scene that he was in. Every time he was on screen, it was like, oh yes, mate, he's back. Let's get this on. Let's get going. And the fact that again him and John were friends at one point. I think they were friends. I think it kind of hinted that. And you could tell that they did not want to. You could tell Kim and John didn't want to hurt each other. They didn't want to He didn't want to fight John. He didn't want to kill John. But he had so if he had to because of his daughter, and you really got that across. Donnie Chen was able to sell that as well. He's a father just trying to protect his daughter, and he'll just do whatever. And the fact that he doesn't want to kill his friend, but he's willing. But if that's what it takes to save his daughter, he'll do it. Showing that the dedication he has as a dad. It added layers to his character and made him a lot more interesting as well. Which makes me quite sad for the end credit sequence, which I'll talk about when we get to the ending of this movie. But yeah, Donnie Chan, he was such a great character, man. He was good. Winston also as well, not to forget about him. For some reason, I haven't written him down in my notes here. I don't know why. But Winston was good as always. I cannot remember the actor who plays him. I'm really sorry. I'm really bad with names. I swear down, I'm so bad with names. It's the Marvel episode all over again. But Winston was great as always. He was very kind of cunning. He was very well spoken. He was very badass in his own way. Even though you didn't see him kick any ass, he was just his speeches and his words that he gives to John throughout the film, and to encourage him and to kind of push him to to fight for his freedom and to also so he can get his Continental Hotel back as well. And when the Continental got exploded, when Bill Skarsgård's character exploded the entire hotel, you really felt his pain. Where that hotel was his life, and the hotel was his life. He was the manager of the hotel, and that was his baby, and he's gone. And Winston was able to get that. You could feel that pain with him. Lawrence Fishburne was cool as always. He's not in the film very much, but he wasn't in the last one very much as well. But he was that badass. Lawrence Fishburne's always badass though. He's such a powerhouse of an actor, and I'm so glad that these films were able to. I'm so glad these films, even though he had a small role, these films were able to utilize him probably better than I would say Ant-Man and the Wasp, and even maybe the DCEU films where he's been in. I think it was Man of Steel and BVS, and he had a much bigger role in those two movies than he did in this one. But this film was able to really properly utilize him well, even though he had a very small role. His character I thought was funny. I thought he was again like when he's walking down the corridor and he's saying that kind of speech. He got the cuts with John punching punching the ball, and he's got like a dent. Um, yeah, it was just so cool, man. Lawrence Fishburne, he's a legend. I can't wait to see him. Well, he's a legend. So hopefully, if we do a chapter 5, I hope he comes back. I really hope he comes back. If they do chapter 5, which we'll get on to at the very end. He was great. Lance Frederick, man, rest in peace. Rest in peace. What a great actor. What a great performer. What a great legend. The fact that, when Keanu was doing interviews for this movie and one interviewer was naming off all of the martial art, all the legendary actors that he had to work with in this film, and the fact that Keanu very, very quickly was like, and Lance Reddick as well. Don't forget that, like making sure that he wasn't left out, because obviously Lance passed away just before this film came out as well. I think it was just before. It was either before or after, or it was either before or maybe slightly after, but it was definitely around that time. And the fact that Keanu wanted to make sure that he was never forgotten. I feel like it's such a that proves just how fantastic of a human being Keanu Reeves really is. He's just a great human being, really. This is a great final performance for Lance Frederick. Unless there's another movie he filmed before before he passed away as well. I think this might be his last performance. I'm not 100% sure. But if it is, it's a great performance. He's not in it for very long, but it's short. It's a short role, but it's sweet. And when he was shot, and he died at the end, and Winston's kind of saying goodbye to him, saying goodbye to him as a friend. Again, you felt that impact. And I think Lance and Winston was able to sell that kind of they've been long term friends, and the fact that his friend is now gone, and his hotel is gone as well. And you can tell Winston was out for revenge, in this movie especially. Um, but yeah, Lance Frederick, rest in peace. This was a great final performance from him. If this is his last performance, and yeah, and that was great. He was perfect in this movie. Rest in peace. And Bill Skarsgård as the villain was fantastic. I think Bill Skarsgård's always great as villains, though. Like he was great as Pennywise in the It movies. Even though I wasn't a big fan of the It movies. I mean, I've watched Chapter 1. I didn't like Chapter 1 very much, but I thought he was great as Pennywise. He was great as this more kind of darker, less campy Pennywise, so to speak. So he's always been good at villains, and in this one, he's basically your typical John Wick villain. He's an asshole. He's a dickhead, and you want John Wick to kick his ass. You actually want John Wick to kick his ass. But he was very psychotic, and he was very, you didn't know what he was going to do. He was very unpredictable as well at times. So like when he's that scene where he's talking to Mr. Nobody in the stable, I think it is, and Mr. Nobody's up and he like places he forces Mr. Nobody's hand onto the barrel, and then he like shoves a knife into Mr. Nobody's hand, and then Mr. Nobody's like, you can either pull the knife out or pull your hand out. And that scene was like chilling. That scene in general was fucking disgusting. The way that Mr. Nobody just pulled his hand out, I was like, oh god, I had to look away. I had to look away because it was just on the Foley sound effects they used for that, the crunching, and like you could hear the bones just cracking, and it was just, oh god, that scene, man. It was cool, but it was disgusting. Which I guess was the point. But yeah, he was great as the villain. I think that the last stretch of the movie when he was trying to stop John from getting to the church for the duel, because obviously if John didn't make it to the duel on time, then he wouldn't earn his freedom. Winston would be dead, and his Continental Hotel wouldn't be reinstated. As well. What else as well? Clancy Brown was in this movie as well. Actually, I forgot to mention him in my notes, but yeah, he was in this movie. And he was pretty good as well. He was very sinister, but he was very straight man, and it was good seeing him as well. It was quite funny as well because obviously Clancy Brown is also a very well known voice actor. and he actually voiced Dr. Neo Cortex in the PS1 originals of Crash Bandicoot 1 to 3. And I think he also voiced him in Wrath of Cortex and Crash 92 Kart as well, before the new voice actor took over. I think it's. I can't remember the new voice actor's name, but it was funny at first because like it's fucking Dr. Neo Cortex, but he's being a lot more straight man, a lot more kind of sinister, and he doesn't really. I feel like his characters didn't really care too much about Bill Skarsgård's villain. I think he was just to him like he was just like his right hand man, and that was it. Like they weren't friends. It wasn't like a Lance and Winston kind of thing where Lance and Winston were like friends. They worked, they helped each other out. They were friends. Him and Bill Skarsgård were definitely not friends. Especially when Bill Skarsgård's character gets killed at the end, and he just doesn't he doesn't like have any kind of emotion or remorse or whatever for for Bill Skarsgård. I'm just gonna say his master. I don't know if they're. I can't remember. Like I don't know if I'd say that, but but he definitely like he just straight up just did not care about him, and I guess maybe he just thought he was a little shit. He was cool in this movie, but definitely, but yeah, back to Bill Skarsgård again. The part where he was trying to stop John from getting to the church, you could definitely feel like the panic on his face and the kind of the frustration within him going slightly more up and up and up, and the fact that Mr. Nobody was calling him, being like, up your pay, or like I'm not doing it, and eventually he caved and gave in. Um, he was a great villain though, which was great. Scott Adkins as the kind of the mid movie bad guy. I really liked him. I really liked how kind of over the top he was. How kind of slightly campy he was. I don't know if the prosthetics he was wearing, you know, uh, for the part. Um, I don't know if that was, if that maybe that helped. And but he was definitely like, when he's like, "You want to kill him? You want to kill him? You want to kill him? We don't want to kill Mister Wick." It's like the way he spoke as well, like his voice and everything. It was very over the top, but it was very well. It was very well needed. I think he needed that kind of, because you got Bill Skarsgård villain who's like a complete cunt, like a complete asshole in this movie, um, and um, and then you have Scott Atkins as one who's like is kind of this mid movie bad guy who's kind of the opposite of that. He's very over the top. He's very campy and stuff. He did remind me a little bit of the Penguin from the Batman, the Matt Reeves one from Colin Farrell, a tad bit, but a bit more over the top. If that makes any sense compared to the Batman, where the Penguin's more grounded and more realistic. Um, but the line as well, like I love the line when like John is I I love how overpowered Scott Atkins actually was. Like he constantly like fell off things and would constantly just get back up and everything. I kind of remember how he died. I think he might have fallen down some stairs, and like broke his neck. I think. Oh, he definitely wasn't shot. I think he may have fallen down some steps. Yeah, but the line they said right before he died to John, which is why don't you just die? I thought that was a really like clever line and a very well delivered line, and you definitely felt his like panic, and he's like, why don't you just die? And I feel like that's also kind of them playing off John's kind of overpoweredness in in the movies as well, because obviously that's been a big, I wouldn't say it's not complete for me because I love how overpowered John Wick is, but I know some people have been a bit like, oh, he's too OP now. He can like fall off a building and get up, and I'm like, yeah, that's why I love him. It's like he can literally fall off like a building and just get the fuck back up and be like, right then, let's go. It's like I know I love the movies for that. He was just very fun as well, Scott Atkins. His film was very fun. I like the Why Don't You Just Die line was really cool. And yeah, and all the other characters as well, all the background characters, all of the secondary characters as well. I can't really name all of them in this review, but they all did a great job as well. All the actors did a great job in this movie. Especially during the action sequences as well, like they were all choreographed really well. Certain that they probably most of them had stunt doubles. I can't imagine Keanu Reeves falling off that many buildings and surviving. I feel like they definitely had they probably did well. They had stunt doubles easily, but but in the scenes it was them, there probably was them. They're still choreographed well. Um, And yeah, to go back to the action sequences again, I do think that these action sequences are probably the best in the whole series for me. They're like they're just it's like I said before, they're bigger and they're bolder than they could ever have been, and the choreography, it's turned up to 11. Like one of the action sequences, I think I've got them written down here in my notes. Oh yeah, I did mention Clancy Brown. Whoops. Uh, and I've got Mr. Nobody as well. I better talk about him in a second. Like the best action sequence in this movie, I feel like, um, was one of them was the one where it was a trip. Yeah, here it is. The tribute to the John Wick Hex game, where where they had the camera tilted from upwards, like it was mimicking that gameplay. And the way that it was done, the way it was shot, it was just looked so cool. It just looked so cool, and the way that they filmed it, where they did the whole kind of one take trick, where it's a new tactic that well, I wouldn't say new. It's been around since I'd say the early 2010s. I feel like, well, it was definitely made popular in the early 2010s, back when Birdman was a thing, back when Birdman came out, because obviously that film was completely shot during the whole one take um, thing, and then after that they started incorporating it into action sequences, like the Daredevil movie, the Daredevil TV series, Netflix ones, where it's him walking down these corridors and he's just knocking people left, right, and center. Um, and that's but the way that they filmed that as well, like as if it was like a one take kind of thing, and the way the camera was tilted on upwards, and you saw the overheads of the other characters, that was really clever and really well done. And I think it was definitely done as a tribute to the John Wick's Hex game, because it looks visually stunning as well. Like they translate it so well to the screen, and John Wick's got the flamethrower, and he's like setting people on fucking fire. It's just like it's very effective, for like even more kind of like even more deaths in this movie, which was great, which was nice. I feel like, um, and going back, and yeah, but the action sequences I feel like was dialed up to 11. The best action sequence I'll get to further on as we continue going downwards. Um, yeah, further on until we get further on until we get going downwards. Um, but the action sequences, um, the action sequences I feel like were the best in this movie. I'll talk about the my favorite one in just when we get further down. Um, but yeah, and I feel like as well, going back to John again, his freedom, that's kind of his main goal in this movie, is to get his freedom. I feel like that's kind of his main goal throughout. It was his main goal throughout the third film, at least. And I like how they carry that on. Like he's still trying to get, even after all this, he's still trying to get his freedom and get away from the High Council, and kind of just finally just retire and rest. Basically, it's all about him. It's the whole theme of this movie is John finally getting his freedom, and I feel like it definitely added tension to the film and a lot of suspense to the plot, especially when, especially after 3 other movies of him doing this. You really get the idea, and you really get across that. Uh, definitely get across, uh, that he wants his freedom now. Like he's ready for freedom. He just wants it. He doesn't want to do this anymore. He wants to retire, and he just wants to rest. And he just wants to probably get an island somewhere and just relax on a fucking beach. I feel like if I was an assassin, I was wanting to retire. That's probably how I would want my retirement to go. I'd just go to a beach and just chill on the beach. Um, but that really got across, and did add a lot of suspense. You wanted John, particularly in this film, you really wanted John to get his freedom, because they made such a big deal about it as well, and because you do kind of get the sense that this could be the end of the series. You definitely that you wanted him to get his freedom. You wanted him to get his freedom, and I feel like that definitely came across again with Keanu's performance and his emotions, and and the fact again, he didn't speak much, but he really got that kind of, it was really made clear, and you definitely felt that as well. You want John to get his freedom in this movie. Um, some of the music choices as well. The music was really good overall. Like the sound, I mean, the soundtrack movies, the John Wick films always had great music. The great music. Like it's a techno kind of thing, but it helps it definitely adds to the scenes, especially the action sequences as well. You got this fast paced, kind of techno kind of music, and it's like particularly in scenes during like clubs and stuff like that when he's fighting Scott Atkins as well. Like the club music as well, it definitely adds that. The techno definitely adds to the suspense. It's done in a way where it adds to the suspense of the of the fights, the action sequences as well. But at times it also felt like a little bit of a western, especially when you have the duel and everything. Um, you have the duel that John Wick is doing, um, and but occasionally we'll have the wow 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 kind of thing where it does feel a little bit like westerny, which I kind of liked. Really, I thought that gelled pretty well. Like I thought it was quite interesting, giving it a little bit of a western kind of vibe to it. Again, I mean, I haven't watched the John Wick movies since January this year, so I can't remember if like maybe those music keys were in the previous movies and I've just forgotten. If they were, let me know. Feel free to yell me in a comment section somewhere. But yeah, and the music overall, again, the score in John Wick movies are always very good, in my opinion. So I have no issues with the music here. At points, it definitely felt like at points a bit like there's a movie that came out that based on a graphic novel. Um, I cannot remember the year it came out. Actually, let me quickly check. When did this movie come out? Ah, here we go. 1979. Yeah, it reminded me a bit of the 1979 film The Warriors, which I've only seen once. Which kind of had a cult classic to it as well. And the reason being that it reminded me a bit of that was mainly because towards the end when you've um, got the DJ giving the announcements on the radios and everything, saying, "Oh, we've got John Wick, take him down." And stuff like that. That did have give me a bit of a Warriors vibe to it. It was one of those things where it's like I was trying to remember, like I was like I've seen this in a movie before, and then I remembered it was from the Warriors. And granted, maybe other movies have done this before. The Warriors is the only other film that I've seen but that have done it. Um, I think The Simpsons in a recent episode actually parody the Warriors for some reason. I don't know why. Um, but it definitely felt like a bit like the Warriors at points, but mainly with the DJ and stuff like that, where she was, telling people to go after John Wick, in the final fight, trying to stop him from getting to getting to his final destination, basically getting to his end goal, to getting to the duel. They were trying to stop him from getting to the duel, basically. And I feel like that definitely added a lot of tension to it. But it reminded me of the Warriors, but it didn't distract me or anything. I thought that was quite a cool thing to add as well, and it was a bit of a weird tribute, I guess. I don't know if they deliberately did that as a tribute to the Warriors, but if they did, that's a pretty cool, deep cut kind of reference, I guess. Maybe not that deep cut, maybe not even a reference, but who knows? I'm just spouting things here at this point. All over the place here. One of the notes here says it was nice having a dog that didn't die. Which technically speaking, we haven't had a dog die since John Wick 1. But it was just like Mr. Nobody's dog was, a legend, basically. And talking about Mr. Nobody, he was fine. I didn't really feel a lot for his character. I thought he might have been the actor that plays him, Samir Anderson. He did a really good job in the role. He did well what he was given. I found his character though just a bit meh. Just like not a bad character by any means necessary. Like he's not a terrible character or anything. But he definitely he didn't give me he didn't give me quite the same impact as a lot of the other characters, like a lot of the other secondary characters, or a lot of the a lot like Donnie Chen's character, or Winston, or Lance, or Bill Skarsgård's character, or John Wick himself. I just found him a bit of an empty character, really. Yeah, but even then, like they still utilized him well, and he was still really interesting. Especially the action sequences in this film as well were like really really good. How they utilized him and his dog as well, and the way that the dog just got involved again, and the way he trained his dog as well to like get involved in the fights. I also really liked how John actually at one point saved his dog when they were in that building. Like I think one of the other men was about to kill him, about to kill the dog, and then John just was like, "No," and then just saves him. I love how John Wick, he doesn't give a crap about humans, but he'll happily like protect animals. Um, but yeah, his dog was funny. I feel like the staircase scene, particularly when the dog just pisses on like that dead body, I thought that was really funny. Uh, I just thought that was fucking hilarious. Um, but yeah, and going on my notes here, Shamir Anderson, Miss Nobody, he was okay, he was an okay character, a bit of an empty character, but if they do a chapter 5, they can always bring him back and then try to further develop him in a way, kind of like the world as well, because like they continued the development of the world and the world building. And again, I really like this. I really like the John Wick world that they're creating here. And it is one of the reasons why I am slightly hoping for a chapter 5. But at the same time, we've still got got the ballerina film spin off that's coming out soon. I think that's still in development. We've got the Continental TV show that's coming out as well soon. I don't know when that's going to air in the UK, but that could be another thing where it gets imported to Netflix or E4 or somewhere like that. Um, yeah, definitely. Unless it's like on another streaming service, who knows? But I loved how they continued again to develop the world and develop the High Council as well. And you got to learn more about the High Council and kind of like how you got to learn more about like the history of the High Council and the old rules, and how that was kind of John Wick's way to getting the duel that he wanted. Obviously, he um, had to get like backing from a crime family, and that obviously being the family that he from the crime family, so he can get his duel. Um, but again, they continue this whole kind of new world that you get to play with, and again, like having John Wick be like its own thing, its own franchise is enough. It's not based on anything pre-existing. Maybe it was inspired by a couple of stuff, but overall, it's like its own thing, and like you really felt that in this film. Like they really like continued the development of his character in this movie. Not development of his character, sorry, the development of the world in this movie, really. Um, and yeah, I just really love how we're getting more and more and more of it as well. We're getting to know more about like a little bit more about John's past and stuff like that. I do think that eventually we probably will end up getting a prequel. That could be what Chapter 5 might be. It could be a John Wick prequel where we find out more about his history. Personally, I wouldn't really like that. I'd rather they just keep it mystery. I prefer it when like answers kill imagination. And I like how I'd rather just keep it a mystery and not kind of kill the imagination of oh, what happened between these two thing. But yeah, like I'm looking forward to the spin-offs as well. Like and that's how they could continue the world basically. Just don't make a chapter 5. Just continue with spin-offs and stuff like that. Really, I'm looking forward to them. I'm looking forward to continuing to see this world grow and develop even more and build even bigger and better. And they really continue that again. They continue that with this movie as well with with more characters and establishing more rules. And I just felt like that was pretty. Again, I love the world building in these movies. I like this world, and I do want to see more of it. In more spin-off territory, though. And yeah, and again, having John, get back from a crime family to get his duel, I thought that was a pretty cool idea. Um, the fact that he had to like go through all that, like go through a fight, kill Scott Acton's character, and then you're getting like a mark kind of burnt onto his skin afterwards as well. You really felt that pain that he was going through. Like really felt that. But I thought that was quite neat as well. And yeah, and let's get into the best action sequence of the film. So the best action sequence for this movie, um, for me, was definitely the staircase scene. That to me was the best action sequence in this entire film. There were more action sequences in the film, obviously, that were great, but the staircase sequence, absolutely superb in this movie. Like every single like punch, kick, attack, like beating that John took, you really felt that, and you wanted him to get to his destination, and you could feel the suspense. Like he's constantly checking his watch, the time's ticking, time's running out, and like he needs to get to the top of that staircase. He needs to get to that church, and if he doesn't, then he's a dead man. And Winston's a dead man as well. And so you really feel like you really feel like the tension's building up to it, and he's doing his best, and he gets every time he gets knocked down, you're like, no, John, get up, John, you got to do this. Um, every time he gets knocked down, every time he gets back up again, I feel like that was pretty good. And again, I like how Mr. Nobody eventually helped him out, and Donnie Chen's character also helped him out as well. Especially, it was like these old kind of friends teaming up one last time before they have to square off against each other in the duel. But it was definitely, you felt every single like punch and kick, and you just felt everything in that sequence. You felt it. You felt everything in that sequence. Not just the fighting, it's just every emotion, everything like was felt in that sequence, and it was again, it was choreographed like really, really well. I feel like, and um, it was choreographed really well, um, and yeah, it was so suspenseful and everything, and yeah, it was good to see Donnie Chen and him team up again one last time. The actual duel itself also again added to the suspense. I really liked how they kept constantly shooting each other, and then on the last one, John doesn't shoot, and he thinks that he's gone. You think like, oh no, John's down, he's lost, and then Winston's like, "You arrogant asshole, you didn't shoot," and then John just kills Bill Stargard's character. I mean, that was just pure genius. That was pure genius. I don't know if him and I feel like you definitely got the sequence, the idea that him and Donnie Chen's character probably planned that from the start. Maybe when they were like heading up to the heading up to the church, or maybe they sort of knew that's how things were going to play out. But it was good to get kind of a bit of a happy ending for not for John. Well, maybe, but for Donnie Chen, he got his daughter back. Winston got his hotel back. John got his freedom, and it was great. It was a really great duel. But the staircase sequence is always going to be the best action sequence, I think, in a John Wick film. They're not going to top that ever. Moving on to let's move on to the ending. Let's talk about the ending. So again, John Wick dies at the end. He looks up to the sun. The sun's rising, and he calls out his wife's name, and he kind of passes out on the stairs, and then we see a gravestone, next to his wife's, Helen's. And for me, and obviously they did leave. I think the director said that like when the dog, there's this part of that scene with the dog where his John Wick's dog like looks up, and I think that's maybe like a little bit of a hint that maybe John's still there. Um, and there's a couple lines of dialogue that like that hints that maybe he's not there, that maybe Winston maybe like picked him, like helped him, he healed his wounds, and then kind of sent him off somewhere where he could just be in peace, where nobody could find him, like hid him away somewhere so nobody could like ever find him or bother him ever again. um and I feel like, but to be honest with you, should there be a chapter 5 of John Wick? Should there be a chapter 5? Should there be another one like they were originally going to before COVID happened? Personally, I don't think so. I think that this ending perfectly bookends the series. I feel like having John finally get his freedom and having his death have kind of having like, it's kind of a weird metaphor, really. Like his death is kind of his freedom in a weird way. Where that's how I saw it. I see it. I feel like his death is his freedom. Like he's finally free of all this, and he can just rest and be in peace. Finally get the peace that he wants and deserves. And obviously, yeah, sure, because obviously I know like some people complain about it because obviously John Wick, he's very overpowered. Like he's fallen off buildings, he's gotten hit by cars. He does, and then it's like a couple of gunshots that kills him. Um, but I do think that I do think that even then, I do think it still perfectly bookends the series. Because like I said before, after chapter 3, I was thinking like this series does need to wrap up soon, because I feel like once you get past 3 and you start doing 4, 5, or a 6 film, that's when you slowly start to kind of form into kind of straight to DVD territory, which I feel like this franchise could easily fall into that. And I do feel like what else is there to do really with John? I feel like again, yeah, the action's great and everything, but I feel like again they've dialed it up to 11 here, and I don't know how can you even top this? Like I know after chapter three we were all thinking, how can you top the action in chapter three, and they've proven that they can do that. But how can you top the action in chapter four? Like I don't know how you can keep upping the ante. And I think like again, I do think eventually audiences will probably start getting maybe a little bit bored of the movies after a while. They'll be like, oh yeah, John's back and he's beating up people again. And I think after that, people might start to get a bit bored over it. I do think that maybe if you do want to do a chapter five, then maybe wait a little while, like maybe wait, I don't know, 4 years at least beforehand. Have people have this film kind of simmer a little bit with people and have people kind of miss the character of John, and then you bring him back. But obviously, Keanu's nearly 60 at this point, so who knows? Who knows what will happen there? But I do think that this ending bookends the series quite well. Again, if they do a chapter five, I won't be against it. I'll still check it out. Because I love these movies. But I do think maybe chapter four should be the end of the John Wick saga, and I think that maybe. Yeah, I do think chapter four should be the end. I think it definitely bookends the series quite well, in my opinion. Um, and yeah, I don't want a chapter five, but if it happens, I'll still check it out because it's John Wick. I gotta check it out. You gotta check out John Wick. You can't just leave John Wick hanging there. Otherwise, he'll hunt you down and assassinate you, basically. And again, with the world building as well, like I do want to see more of this world, but I feel like because four, I do think bookends the series quite well. I think spin-offs are the way to go now. We've got the Continental TV series, we've got the Ballerina spin-off coming out soon. I feel like the spin-offs are the way to go, in my opinion, if you want to continue to building this world up, and vice versa. If you want to keep adding to this world and establishing new things in this world, um, I think maybe that is the way to go. However, there is a post-credit scene at the very end where Donnie Chen's character is walking. I think he's walking to his daughter because he's got flowers in his hand, and the girl of the dad that he killed at the start is walking up to him. She's got a blade in hand, and that could hint that maybe Donnie Chen's about to get like killed or something. And that could be a lead up to chapter five, where she becomes a new overlord, a new like kind of villain, because her dad died, and she blames the High Council, she blames the Continental, she's going after every single assassin and stuff. So maybe that could be like the plot to chapter five. Like maybe John's going to come out of retirement again, just to like stop her. But that could be like a kind of that could be a little bit teased where they're like if people really want, because the director had said that if people want a chapter five, he'll do it. And they were going to do a chapter five before COVID happened, and they had to kind of have this one kind of bookend the series, potentially. But I do think that this should be the last one. I don't think there should be another one. If you want to continue on that end credit scene, maybe have that be the setup to the ballerina spin-off. Like maybe somebody else has to go after her, has to go after her and stop her. I feel like John has earned his rest now, uh, and he's really earned it. You really felt like he's finally earned his freedom in this movie. I think bringing him out of retirement would just ruin that, and I'm tired of endings being ruined, man. I'm sick and tired of this. You have this perfectly good ending, and it gets ruined. Like people just want to ruin endings. It's like the Inbetweeners movie. I know that's not that's a really weird comparison, um, but like you had the first movie that ended, ended the series really well. I feel like, and you had the second one which came in and just destroyed all of that. Destroyed that perfect ending, and then you had Toy Story where series where three had a really good ending, and then you had four which you know again had also had a pretty good ending in my opinion. But now you've got five coming out, and that's going to ruin that ending. And it's like, when's it going to end? Like, remember when things just ended? Like remember when things like ended? Remember endings. There's a reason why the reason why that we have these things called endings, and it's like we have the Fast and Furious movies that are coming to an end soon. We'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see if Fast 10's the last one. I'm probably not going to watch it because I'm not seeing the Fast and Furious movies. I have no interest in those. Um, but yeah, I'm sick and tired of endings being ruined. I love a good ending, and I like it when franchises they know when to stop. It's like a TV show. Like, when the TV show stops, it's like, now we've got these like revivals of TV shows now, and it's like, but this show ended perfectly like 8 years ago. Like, why are we bringing it back? And like for this, like, I know it's like some of them bring them back for like a limited series, um, but I don't know. I just feel like I feel like with these movies, I feel like this should be the end for John Wick, at least for John's story. I feel like John's story has ended now, and we should move on to like new characters. And let's not ruin John's ending. Let's let John's ending be the ending that it is. Let's have that be the ending. Let's not ruin anything. And yeah, so I wouldn't want a chapter five. Continuing on with spin-offs, the world and everything, but let's let John rest. Let's give him his ending. Let's leave this ending as it is, please. Let's not ruin the ending. Um, and yeah, overall, that's my review of John Wick Chapter 4. I feel like this might be. Yeah, this is definitely the shortest episode. Definitely. This is coming into like under 55 minutes. Damn. Usually these episodes take about 2 hours, but honestly, yeah, like, I'm sure that, the next episode will probably be longer because I'm going to be with Alex again, hopefully, if we can work it out, doing the Super Mario Brothers movie. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about that film because we had a lot to say about it before it came out. We'll probably have a lot to say about it now it's out. Um, but yeah, overall, John Wick Chapter 4, if it's still playing in the cinemas and you still haven't seen it yet, and you've still sat through all these spoilers, if these spoilers were not enough to sell you on the movie, granted, I know I might have been a bit, if I sound a bit tired in this, that's because I am tired. So if I sounded a bit all over the map in this episode, uh, then I apologize. Hopefully, I came across as clear as possible. But if not, I'll fix it for like future episodes. There's always room for improvement in these things, and John Wick Chapter 4. If you still haven't seen it yet, go see it. If these spoilers weren't enough to convince you, I hope they were. Just go see it anyway. Go see this movie. Let's have this movie continue to do well at the box office because it's done super well at the box office, and all the power to it because it absolutely deserves its box office gross. It really does. We need to continue kind of supporting these new original kind of movies. I feel like, especially when it comes to the action sequences, we've got all these superhero movies, which is I'm not like against superhero movies or anything, superhero fatigue. I'm not fatigued or anything by that. But I feel like we just start, original stuff now, especially like independent films as well. Like, I need my main goal for this decade is to see more independent films in cinemas because throughout the last decade, honestly, I may have seen only like a couple of independent movies in cinemas, and the rest of them were just blockbusters. I need to fix that. Um, I know this film wasn't an independent film, but it was an original movie. Like it's an original franchise. So yeah, go see it. If you've seen it before, go see it again. Just go see it again. Just do it. Just go see it again. It's absolutely worth the money. Especially if you've seen it before and you've loved it, I would recommend seeing it again. If you've seen it a second time, go see it a third time. You've seen it a third time, go see it a fourth time. You know what I mean? Just go see this movie. It's an absolute blast of a time, and you'll have fun at the cinema. And it's such a good bookend to the franchise. If I have to do ratings for these reviews, which I don't really want to, but I guess ratings are back now. So yeah, out of five, I give this movie a 4. Out of 10, give it about 8.5. I'd say, yeah, that's pretty much my ratings. So yeah, overall, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I'm very sorry that this episode took ages to come out. Hopefully, the next one will take. There won't be a massive. Hopefully, yeah. Obviously, there probably will be gaps in the future. I'll try my best to make sure there aren't as massive gaps in the future, but this is just a small little thing that I do in my spare time to like try and continue being creative. Um, but yeah, thank you for tuning to this episode. As I've said in previous episodes beforehand, but if you're new here, let me just do a little bit of housekeeping. So in the description below is a link to my website. I have a bachelor and a master's in film TV production, and I would like to do something with it. And unfortunately, COVID has made that almost impossible. I've not been able to do any voluntary stuff. I've been applying for traineeships, internships, but I keep getting turned down. Because obviously trying to get into one of those is a miracle. But I've got my website, and if you could do me just one favor, and that's share my website around, just share it around, just get it all shared, send it to your friends who if you need help for any movie. Currently, I'm looking for voluntary stuff. I'm not looking for paid work as of right now. I'm doing it on a voluntary basis. until I get my driver's license sorted out, and then I'll start doing it on a paid basis. But right now, honestly, just share a website around. Get whoops, the pot mic just got moved for a bit there. Get it around, share it with your mates, with your friends. If you know anybody who's got a project in the works and need help, send them my way. Send them a website, and I'll help you out with it. And yeah, you don't have to subscribe to this channel. You don't have to be a regular member here. Just share the website around, and I'll be happy. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So until next time, people, I will hopefully see you very soon, and hopefully the next gap will not be as massive as this one. So overall, yeah, go see John Wick Chapter 4 and have a fantastic day. And I'll see you when I see you next.